As soon as you finish this video, you can paint any old way you want it. I spent quite a bit of time on this dome, didn't I? Trying to give the impression of the ribs. You know, it's what is that, copper? Is that a copper dome that turns green? So we get that famous green color. I think that's what it is. And it has ribs in it, you know that. But I don't want to just get out a small brush and draw the ribs, because it wouldn't be in keeping with the rest of the painting. It would scream out loud and say, "Looky here, he took a small brush and did these skinny little lines." So I'm not drawing skinny little lines. I'm drawing, I'm just about making a liar of myself. You're going to see a lot of this in this painting. And this is a fairly recent development for me. In the last 3 or 4 months, I've been doing a lot more. The technical artsy term is sgraffito, or sgraffito, an Italian term, and it basically means scratch. Sounds like it, doesn't it? Scratch, sgraffito. And in fact, you may get a kick out of this. So several weeks ago now, I've been doing sgraffito enough that I took all of the brushes that are sitting to my right on my tabaret, my little art table here as I do this painting. I've got a bucket of about, well, actually 3 buckets with about a total of about 100 brushes in them, I suppose. All the way from the big things you saw me using at the beginning, you know, big 3-4 inch brushes, all the way down to the little number 0 sable for doing my signature, mind you. Anyway, I took them, all the brushes, not the great big hammer, I took all the brushes up to the garage and I set up my belt sander and I sanded down the butt end of all my brushes. I didn't just sand it enough to get the paint, the shiny smooth paint, off the end of all the handles. Why? Because when I pick up a brush, I don't want to look and see if it's rough. I want to know that the end of it is scratchy so that I can use it to do, yeah, sgraffito. So believe it or not, I've actually enjoyed having all of my brushes kind of rough on the end so that they work really well for sgraffito. You saw me just a minute ago doing what is traditionally called sky holes. That is, the tree there, right? That autumn fall colored tree is just a completely amorphous blob. But when I came back with the color of the sky and did certain strokes, it started to look like a tree. Those of you who are beginning or student painters, you probably have heard the term sky holes. They shouldn't be called sky holes, because what if it's not sky behind your building, behind your tree? What if it's a building? Then they should be called building holes. That's right. So whatever it is behind the tree, sorry my head's in the way here, but you can kind of peek around my head and see me doing more holes in that big shape. It's quite a trick to do sky holes, because you're trying to give the impression of a tree without drawing the tree, by drawing the tree in the negative. Get it? So don't be dismayed if you don't get a home run the first time or the first 5 years you try to do sky holes. It's a bit of a trick. Look it up. Maybe there's probably somebody's got a good video out there somewhere on how to do sky holes. The basic concept is whatever it is on your brush needs to be the same color as the sky, in this case, behind the tree. Okay, you'll be able to see this better actually in the finished version of the painting. It doesn't show. I've got glare on my canvas there. All kinds of excuses. Stick around, I'll make more excuses. Just you wait and see. By the way, this painting is going to be available as a print at fineartamerica.com. Just go to Fine Art America and do a search for Dan Nelson. Ooh, here's my first use of a palette knife. And if you look at the palette knife I used it. That is my new favorite shape. I think I'll be using it several times throughout this painting process, so keep an eye on it. I like it because it has 3 distinct flat edges. Each one is a different length. Anyway, go to Fine Art America and Google, do a search for Dan Nelson. Now, I really do need to let you know that if you go to Fine Art America and key in Dan Nelson, there's another Dan Nelson there, and he specializes in male nude photography. And I'm the other one. Sorry about that. Block your children's eyes. After you click on one of my images, you know, my page will come up, but I don't know any way around that right now. And I've complained a little bit, but it hasn't done any good. There I am using my new favorite kind of palette knife. I like using a palette knife. I use it within moderation. My feeling, I'll just go ahead and tell you, I hope not to offend anybody, but a lot of emerging artists, they discover palette knife painting and they maybe go gaga over it and say, oh man, this is the way to paint. Well, yeah, you should do that for about a week and then you should get over it. It's just one of the tools in your toolbox. Don't get hung up. I look at, here's one of the masters of correct use of the palette knife is Richard Schmid, S-C-H-M-I-D. In fact, he's one of the American masters at everything oil painting, but he uses a palette knife discreetly and perfectly, just the right amount. So I'm trying to be like him. I hope you're trying to be like some good painter. If you want to be a good artist, by the way, don't waste your time looking at artists that aren't really good. Okay. Half of you just turned off this video because I told you just to follow artists that are really good. Okay, for the half of you that are left, thank you for sticking with me. But honestly, don't waste your time looking at inferior artwork. Man, I remember learning this decades ago when I was an illustrator. I had a friend who was doing pointillism. God-awful pointless. I mean, pointillism is wonderful. It's awful to do, right? It takes like forever. It is the slowest medium in the book. But he had several pointillism drawings, and I wanted to say, well, that's all right, but the internet was already around. I said, go to the internet and find the best pointillist artists in the world and copy them. Okay? The same thing is true with everything else. Go to the best oil painters you can find and copy them. Okay, but thank you for the 13 of you who are still watching this video after I said that. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I just turned 60. You can read my bio at my website. But basically, in short strokes, my dad was a good painter. He wasn't his profession; it was just a hobby. But he was a really good hobby painter. He really was. And so by the time I went to kindergarten, I thought I was supposed to be like my dad. So I thought I was an artist when I went off to kindergarten. And so some of you, many of you, you're probably the class artist, right? In 3rd grade, 4th grade, you know, the girls wanted you to draw a horse in 4th grade, and if you're a boy, you were drawing guns and race cars in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, and so on. Well, that was me. I was the class artist. And started out in college actually majoring in music, and then as a junior in college said, you know what? I think I can probably make a living as an artist. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made to make that switch. So I'm still a musician, but it's my avocation. My vocation has very definitely been art. So I spent the majority of the first 30 years of my adult life as a full-time illustrator. Here's the way that illustration world works. Ring-a-ling-a-ling, that phone rings, you pick it up, and the voice says, which being interpreted means we need a super duper drawing of the bank president, or a space shuttle, or a squirrel, or an elephant, or an old tennis shoe, or the first flight of the right. We need it. We need a super illustration of it. And oh yeah, did we say we need it tomorrow? Yeah, we need it tomorrow. And in those years, I used to say there were 3 things that conspired to make me